Number 8. Alien discs in China. Our first story really is something out of a sci-fi movie. In fact, for many experts and commentators, it's just that. A fictional account of a shocking archaeological discovery in China. No evidence exists concerning these strange artifacts known as the Dropa stones. But to this day, the ancient mystery endures. It all started in 1938, when a cave network was found by an archaeologist. Inside the caves, which appeared to have been specifically dug, were the remains of non-human life forms. Their skeletons may have been 3 feet tall, and they reportedly had noticeably large heads. So far, so little green men. But it was the discs that lay with them which generated the most intrigue. Numbering over 700 and dating back to around 10,000 BC, the Dropa stones were discs measuring a foot in width and featuring a hole in the middle. Now if that sounds like a vinyl record to you, guess what? The discs also had grooves which at one point were placed onto a record player. When the needle went down, energy was reportedly released. Within the grooves were symbols telling the supposed alien story. Apparently they weren't welcomed by humans at the time and murdered. The reason we in the worldwide community don't have the Dropa stones to examine for ourselves is that China put them under lock and key, though at one stage Russia took a look and concluded they were made from a combination of cobalt, iron, and nickel. It's a powerful mystery, we're sure you'll agree, and certainly unexplained. However, the unexplained part can be boiled down to the fact that it isn't very convincing on the evidence front. People with first-hand experience of the stones don't apparently exist, or maybe all record of them was erased by the aliens. Ooh, freaky. Number 7. Rongo Rongo writings. From a vague ancient mystery to a more realistic one, the Rongo Rongo writings of Rapa Nui, i.e. Easter Island, most definitely exist because we've actually seen them, which is a good start. We don't know a lot about this writing system, which can be found on tablets and also displayed on a wooden fish in the island's museum. There's more than one idea as to how Rongo Rongo got started, making things even more mysterious. Let's start by taking a look at the language itself, containing both human and animal shapes combined with other less understandable symbols. It represents the communications of a people whose habitation of the island was largely destroyed. When others discovered the remote beauty of Rapa Nui, they also brought with them new diseases and a desire to conquer and enslave. This meant that the population's sacred religious traditions were pushed aside. The giant stone heads, such a famous image worldwide, are a major indicator of a culture that is, on the whole, lost. As the 20th century dawned, a few people remained to tell their story. While their remembrances were recorded by some, it's only a small fraction of the culture left behind. New Zealand linguist Stephen Roger Fisher wrote a book on the subject. He believes the Rongo Rongo writings can be viewed through the prism of East Polynesia and its oral traditions. It's thought the first people to inhabit Rapa Nui came from that area. He refers to cosmogonies, which are origin stories of the universe and our natural world. Fisher believes the surviving examples of Rongo Rongo are part of this tradition. Furthermore, he theorizes that the symbols or glyphs are only part of the reading process, with long-established chants possibly providing more detail. It's a disputed view of Rongo Rongo, but nevertheless a fascinating one. Ultimately, the story is so elusive because we don't even know when Rapa Nui welcomed its first inhabitants. Did they land there as early as the year 800? And if they did they bring their writing system with them? Or might that have come later in response to later explorers and their own forms of communication? How will the mystery of Rongo Rongo be cracked? Artificial intelligence is being applied to the conundrum, but it's thought even modern technology will be stumped. It doesn't help that the original examples of Rongo Rongo were taken off the island, where they were created, of course. Number 6. Costa Rican spheres. An extinct people called the Diquis lived in the Central American country of Costa Rica between AD 700 and 1530. While they had a great culture at the time, many hundreds of years have passed. This means we have to rely on the archaeological evidence they left behind, some of which is maybe a little on the strange side, at least through our eyes. These are petrospheres, or stone that has been hammered into a spherical shape before being smoothed. Phew, it makes us tired just thinking about it. Numbering over 300, they can be found on Canyo Island in an area known as Diquis Delta. They were discovered, or rather they came to light after years of neglect by workers for a banana plantation, made from a type of rock called gabbro. The balls measure from just a foot to 6.6 feet in width. It's noted that they appear to have been placed in areas that were significant to the Dequis. Apart from that, the jury is very much out on what purpose they served. Were they intended to suggest status, or did they just look cool? An interesting detail is that in accounts from the 16th century, explorers didn't mention seeing stone balls in the territory. You'd think that kind of thing might get their attention, right? We only have a vague idea of when the petrospheres were made and when they were arranged. Experts trace the first spheres back to the year 600 or thereabouts. Throw in the fact that many of the spheres have been moved, and that makes things even more puzzling. Whatever the story, we think you'll agree that they make for a beautiful sight, with a lot of work going into their creation. Mysterious, yet awe-inspiring. Number 5. The Emerald Tablet. Remember how we talked about alien discs at the start of this video, and how there was no physical evidence to back up claims concerning these mysterious items? Well, our next choice arguably puts that story in the shade. Was there really a green emerald tablet bearing symbols and inscriptions that, once understood, could transform humankind's understanding of life, the universe, and everything? Sounds like a fanciful concept, though the amount of famous names and places that are associated with the tablet, which is also referred to as the Smaragdan Tablet, is mind-boggling. By the way, Smaragdan is a word relating to all things emerald. It isn't the name of some wizard, though it certainly sounds like it, right? When it comes to the all-knowing Emerald Tablet, there are definitely more questions than answers. In fact, you might say it's all questions, making it one of history's ultimate mysteries. What was on this powerful and revealing hunk of emerald? Was there more than one? We're thinking if it revealed secrets of the universe, then you're not gonna fit all of that on one tablet. One idea is that the tablet was created in the 5th century by the ancient Greek philosopher/god figure Hermes Trismegistus. He was a pivotal figure in the field of alchemy, or turning matter into other stuff, such as metal into gold. However, it's also believed that he's an ancient legend from the time of the gods who never actually existed himself. So you can get bogged down trying to establish who the author was in the first place. Some think the Emerald Tablet was made in Greece, others Egypt. Atlantis is another possible source for this amazing artifact. As well as dealing with alchemy, the tablet enlightens readers on human consciousness, the power behind everything on planet Earth, and matter transmutation, basically transformation. According to records, it was translated into Latin back in the 12th century, and various notable figures have taken a look at it, including budding alchemist and human gravity detector Sir Isaac Newton. The Philosopher's Stone, which alchemists figure is the key to gold production, and so forth, may well have an entry on the Emerald Tablet. Is the tablet partly a guide to making your very own stone? At the time of recording, we'll never know, because we don't have it to study for ourselves. Now, if you'll excuse us for a sec, this elaborate story has given us a headache. Think we might need to take a, you guessed it, tablet. Number 4. Stargate in Sri Lanka. You've heard of the TV shows and movies based around the concept of the Stargate. Well, here's the real-life version, or at least a rock carving, that's said to take people to strange and unknown places. It may date back to the First Kingdom of Sri Lanka, founded in 377 BC. Or it may not. No one knows when it was created. Of course, we can't vouch for this being an actual Stargate, but there are some intriguing details that just might suggest something cool and cosmic. Before we get into that, let's look at where the carving is located. You can find it in Sri Lanka, in the city of Anuradhapura, inside a huge park called Ranmasu Uyana. This translates as Golden Fish Park, and if you swim in the right direction, so to speak, you will spot this interesting feature on a rock face. As you can see, it has various symbols. The alleged rock Stargate is packed with geometric detail, a series of concentric circles and rectangles with circles inside. Lines run across the carving, and there are representations of fish and other sea creatures around the outside. Meanwhile, people have also identified what they think are details such as weaponry and even an umbrella. What does it all mean? Experts and amateur detectives alike can't pin down the origin of the Stargate. Whilst the Buddhist monks of the area kept records on seemingly everything back then, this significant piece of rock isn't mentioned in their writings, which is kind of strange, right? Also, there are some seats carved into the rock opposite with the mysterious site, which is approximately 6 feet wide. Doesn't this suggest that you could sit there and study the Stargate, or could it just be an ancient version of a park bench? Who knows? Why are people so convinced it's a Stargate? Well, images depicted on the rock appear to be similar to those seen in other symbolic sites around the world. Though we should say nobody's managed to use these symbols to travel through the universe yet. Ultimately, it's believed the rock is a map, though whether it's of the cosmos or something else is anyone's guess. Number 3. Devil's Bible. Now, this is not only ancient and unexplained but also eerie. Believed to have been written in the 13th century, Codex Gigas, or the Devil's Bible, is billed as the biggest book produced in the Middle Ages found to date. To give you an idea of the size, it's an eye-straining 8.7 inches thick and weighs 165 pounds. By the way, in case you're wondering what Codex Gigas means, it translates as, giant book. Okay, that clears it up. Contrary to what the title suggests, it wasn't written by the devil. It's believed to have been put together by a Benedictine monk called Herman the Recluse and spent centuries inside various monasteries. It was based at the Barum of Brotherhood between 1420 and 1594. At that point, King Rudolph II had a lend of it, which turned into a permanent loan. Well, we guess he can't say no to the king, right? During the 30 Years' War, it went to Sweden after their army raided the city. Why does it have the satanic title? This is due to a striking full-length portrait of the Prince of Darkness wearing an ermine loincloth. It forms half of a spread with a heavenly image opposite, which appears to be a cautionary move, warning folk of the dangers of the dark side. The pages, numbering 310, are made of donkey skin vellum, making the tome even more terrifying. Did the author sell their soul so they could complete this epic book in a night? Possibly. Though another theory is it took up to 3 decades. What else is inside the Codex Gigas? Well, it's composed of various texts by other authors, so it's actually an omnibus. The book includes the Bible, plus 1st century historical works by military man Flavius Josephus, among others. If you're brave enough, you can go and check out the book yourself at the National Library of Sweden. Number 2. Lizard Overlords. If you want an answer to some of history's most unexplained mysteries, you might want to consider lizard people as the cause. Yes, we're going full-on conspiracy theory for our next entry. The idea that the most powerful and influential people in our society aren't so much people at all, but reptilian overlords. They've been on the planet for thousands of years. At least according to sports broadcaster turned New Age philosopher David Icke. He believes the lizard people, as they're dubbed by skeptics, arrive from the Alpha Draconis star system in the northern hemisphere. Not only are they shapeshifters, but they drink blood, making them tough to spot and also, we presume, dangerous. Although Icke was widely ridiculed for his statements on the lizard people, he isn't the first to talk about this general idea. Occultist Maurice Doreal mentioned lizard-like beings disguised as humans in a pamphlet published in the 1940s, and connections have been made to science fiction authors such as Robert E. Howard, who wrote about half-men, half-serpents who lived underground and could control folk with their minds. It's a handy catch-all theory to potentially explain the unexplainable throughout history. But the whole alien lizard man thing is kind of the academic equivalent of catching flies, right? Number 1. King Arthur. Despite being one of the most famous names in ancient history, experts still don't know if King Arthur was a real person or not. What do you think? You may have thought he was actually a real king back in history, or you may have just assumed he was a fictional character from myth and legend used in movies like Monty Python and the Holy Grail and Excalibur. The fact is, no one is sure. He was first mentioned in print within the Historia Brittonum, an indigenous history of the Britons written in the year 828 or thereabouts. Nennius, a monk from Wales, is thought to have been the author. According to Nennius, 300 years earlier, Arthur and his trusty knights of the Round Table went to war with the Saxons, who were trying to invade. Was there an Arthur at this battle? It seems not, because he doesn't feature in an account written in approximately 500 AD by Gildas, a Celtic monk. You'd think the king might have gotten a shout-out here, right? Over the centuries, various authors then crystallized the idea of what King Arthur and his friends were up to. Supposedly rooted in fact, it's all too ancient to be pinned down. King Arthur will no doubt forever remain an unexplained mystery. Thanks for watching. Are there any unexplained mysteries you think we left off the list? Let us know in the comments, be sure to subscribe, and see you soon.